Hello and welcome to another video. This is part two of a two-part series where I interview John Knight, the father of Jason Knight, a UK window cleaner who suffered life-changing injuries after being electrocuted by a cable near where he was working. If you haven't already seen part one, I'd highly recommend that you go and watch that first. In part two, we look at the health and safety side of it, how things could be done differently, and how this could possibly help save your life in the future. So what of the electric company, the HSE, what have they said about it? Have they taken responsibility?
No. The DNO is Scottish and Southern Power Distribution. They didn't contact us for over a month. I finally had a phone call from them telling me that the health and safety executive hadn't really spoken to them at all. I phoned the DNO and the health and safety HSE themselves the following day to notify them of the incident. The health and safety executive then asked the DNO to take measurements of the cable, how close it was to the house, how close it was to the ground, which I feel is a conflict of interests. I was informed very recently that it's 0.6 meters within the safety guidelines. That's 2 feet. That, in my opinion, is outrageous. There are multiple failings from the builder to having extensions put on the rear of the house without proper planning examination from the council. They also tell me, the DNO tell me, that the lines are inspected every year. How can you inspect a line and feel it's safe without going in and checking it if it's that close within 2 feet of a property? I asked the closest neighbour if she'd had anybody inspect the telegraph pole which is in her back garden. As they have mentioned, they'd been there every single year. This telegraph pole carries the cable, or one of the cables that electrocuted Jason. She informed us and put it in writing that she hadn't seen anybody since 2014. When I quizzed this with the HSE, he told me, well, today they can do it by helicopter or by walking along an adjacent alleyway, which there wasn't. I just feel that this hasn't been investigated properly, and it needs to be investigated again by an independent company that will go out and look at this. Because if the electric board from a helicopter can say, well, that cable is only 0.6, it's within the area of our scope in its protective state, because at 33,000 volts they're saying it should have a 3-meter circumference around it. That's their health and safety's guidelines, which I feel is wrong. I just feel it's wrong. Under current conditions, in certain aspects, we know this electricity can jump at this type of voltage. There are questions. Why was there no signs? There was no warning signs around the area at all that these cables were carrying such a high voltage. Why are they so close to a conservatory? I don't understand how this is possible. Like I said, Jason's been health and safety trained. He has a CSCS card. He's always aware of his surroundings. I just don't understand how people can build so close to such a high voltage power line and not take into consideration that it's in someone's garden, and you've got the possibility of children going in there using toys these days. Children with super soakers, they're running around in the back of a garden thinking they're safe because it's enclosed, and you think your children are safe, and yet they're running around with their feet on wet grass during a nice warm summer firing a modern day super soaker which has a range of 30 feet. Imagine they fired that up and hit the 14 foot 33,000 volt power line. Imagine a child for Christmas or his birthday gets his fishing rod, 18-foot fishing rod, and builds it out in the garden because he's safe in the old back garden, and he extends it and touches, or gets close to, in this instance, a power line of this magnitude. The current law states they don't have to be sheathed. They don't have to have any warnings attached to them. And as long as they're over 14 feet, they're perfectly safe. I challenge that. I don't think they're safe. I know there's been fatalities in 21 of chaps, other window cleaners, that have come close, touched cables and died. I know in America, people are dying in America as well, and they have the same problem, and they're working with the Federation of Master Window Cleaners to try to see if there's a route that we can all go down to help reduce these terrible tragedies. Yeah. I've spoken to the Federation of Master Window Cleaners. I've spoken to various manufacturers of pole. I've spoken to Alex Gardner. I've spoken to Tom at the window cleaning warehouse. I believe he's the manager there. I've spoken to Craig at Ionics. Trying to get some background and information on poles and what's actually happening within the industry.
What could manufacturers change?
At the moment, my understanding is that Ionics make a carbon fibre or a window cleaning pole which is insulated all the way through the entire pole. I understand that Alex Gardner, his range of poles, like Jason was using, only the first section is insulated. The rest of the sections aren't. I understand there's other companies out there that don't even have any insulation. I'm not going to go into their manufacturers' names, but they don't have insulation. But people should look to see if they have got insulation before they buy a pole. What I would like to see is changes across the board. I think there needs to be more education. There needs to be, from the manufacturers themselves, education, like I said, but I believe it's time now to insulate the first two sections of a pole. If Jason's pole had been insulated on the second section, I believe the pole would have been reduced to the point, dropped down, where the actual jump of electricity would have been able to reach him. So when he touched the second section to give it a little helping hand as it come down, you know, he wouldn't have completed the circuit, if you like. So that's what I would like to see, all manufacturers having at least two sections, possibly to a British standard. Possibly that needs to be looked at in the future by the powers that be or the industry getting together to say how many more lives, how many more people have to be mutilated. It's time to act, and it's time to act now.
How could the electrical suppliers or the distributors change things?
I understand that we can't change our entire distribution network overnight. There's thousands of poles and cables that are old and eventually will come to the end of their serviceable life and then will be buried like all the new stuff has to be now. On a new housing estate, you will go under and you won't see any cables because they're all buried out of the way. Until that happens, I honestly feel that in a domestic setting, if there are cables running through someone's private garden, they should be identified in some manner. Either the DNO should pay, and there should be legislation that you have to have a warning sign for anyone working in that garden on those premises that those cables are potentially lethal and can jump, as we now know, up to 3 meters under the right conditions. Or place a small flag or a plastic, some kind of plastic clamp over the cable so that when someone walks into the garden that is not aware of his surroundings and looks up at the cable and says, I can't identify this, I don't know if it's a telecom cable, an electric cable, what voltage is it carrying, because even though the HSE are very eager to turn around and say, well, it's your responsibility to find out what the voltage of the cable is, we know in reality that a window cleaner only has a specific amount of time to work on a premises. He hasn't got time to start phoning up and looking at plans and trying to work out what cable voltage that is. On the day of Jason's incident, when we had access to the telegraph pole, there was no identification on that with the voltage it was carrying. It took several phone calls, and even then the DNO made 3 attempts to tell us what the voltage was. First of all, they told us it was 11,000 volts, then 22,000 volts, and then finally come back and said, oh no, it was 33,000 volts. So if the DNO are trying to look up the voltage, how is a window cleaner or anybody else hoovering gutters supposed to understand what these voltages of these cables are? There should be a clear sign displayed. You go into McDonald's today and you buy a cup of coffee, it says caution hot, because someone burnt themselves one day. How are we supposed to know what those cables are? Are you an expert? No. How are we supposed to know if they're sheathed, those conductors? What voltage they're carrying? We don't. It should be, I believe, the DNO's responsibility to warn people of the dangers of their cables. I would like to reach out to the manufacturers, the Federation of Master Window Cleaners at this point, and thank them all, because they have been sincere, heartfelt, genuinely concerned. I think the industry knows there is a problem, and the industry are trying their best to work out a way to address it. I've given it a couple of things I'd like to see happen, and I am pursuing another angle to see if I can help make that happen. I just want to say thank you, because they have been incredible. We've had the Federation of Window Cleaners, International Federation, Legacy, a lady called Brandy who reached out to me from America because they have a similar problem, and they're going to donate $500 to Jason's cause. I know that the window cleaning warehouse in Barry are going to take back some old equipment of Jason's and basically pay off anything that was owed to them. So that's very kind of them. Like I said, Alex Gardner, I want to thank him for all the help he's provided to family as well, and kindness, and Craig as well from Ionic Systems in Swindon. It's been incredible, and it's been working with me. He understands the dangers of poles. I believe he was one of the first people to introduce the window cleaning pole into this country. And like I say, he's the only person at the moment that has a completely isolated pole. I can hear the cries of manufacturers saying it's going to cost more money to make the second section, and heavier to make the second section insulated, even if the remaining sections can just stay, say, are normal carbon fibre. But how much is someone's life worth? How many times have we got to keep doing this and burying people and sending them off to hospital mutilated for the rest of their lives? When's this going to stop? We need to get together and understand that the new technology is meeting old technology and they're not compatible.
You said about there's people donated money. Why do you need to raise money? Doesn't the NHS and the DHS pay for his fees and everything?
We need to raise money because there's an awful lot of things that Jason will need going forward. And specifically, the aids that's normally given by the NHS is not up to the same standard. I'll give you a few examples. He's got one arm, but he's entitled to a wheelchair. Okay, so is he going to go around in circles? He needs an electric wheelchair. So this money will pay for the upgrade to get him an electric wheelchair. He needs to have something called a wet room. He can't go into a shower like me and you and have a shower. The whole room needs to be able to be wet, literally, and drain away. There are stair lifts to be considered. There are ramps, and making his current home accessible. Now, unfortunately, Jason lives in the most inaccessible house that I feel he could have purchased. There's a good 6 to 7 foot of steps to climb to get into the front door. He lives in a townhouse. That's 3 stories. It's a terrace townhouse, but he lives in the townhouse. And everything would have to be changed inside. The NHS just don't come along and say we're going to pay for this. There's also prosthetics that he's going to need. There are prosthetics and there are prosthetics. Things we take for granted, just picking up a can of Coke and stuff. You know, Jason will start off with a hook and an attachment that just clamps on and clips on to aid him to pick things up and do things. Where if you go private and you can have something like a hero hand, which is fully bionic, you know, and is specially made to suit the individual it's going to fit. They make it to fit you. And my understanding is there are sensors that can pick up, because your brain still remembers your arm, and it can pick up those signals, and you would learn to close your hand or point or open it and do what you normally do.
How can people help?
There are several ways that you can help, Jason, and I'm specifically asking window cleaners here. We started something called a Clean for Jason. We know that the window cleaning isn't the most profitable business in the world, and we know that everyone's struggling out there like Jason was with their current cost of living crisis. So a Clean for Jason was, we were thinking to ourselves, well, if a window cleaner out there and just does one clean for Jason and then donates that money to his GoFundMe page, or of course you can go onto the GoFundMe page and pledge anything you feel that is affordable to yourself.
I'll put the links for the GoFundMe page and everything in the description below. Yeah. What can we take or learn from this video?
I think that the main points that we need to understand, that everyone needs to understand, is that electrocution isn't something that none of us think about. You know, when we are window cleaning, and I know yourself have told me that you've been cleaning for many years, lots of experience, yet you've only just recently, after Jason's story, started looking up and taking in electrical cables that are around you. And I think if Jason's incident does anything, it needs to raise awareness of our surroundings. We need to be confident that when we are cleaning a property, it's safe to do so. My advice to anybody is, if it's close to a cable that you cannot identify, don't do the job. Walk away. Your life's worth more than the price of that. If you want to reduce the chances of yourself ending up like Jason or the other poor window cleaners before him that unfortunately perished, get yourself an insulated pole, or start asking your favourite pole manufacturer, can they or will they in the future start making insulating poles from the first and second section. These are the parts you're going to mostly come in contact with. I think it's crucial. I think it needs to be done.
John, thank you very much.
Thank you, Dave.
As John said, Jason's going to need a lot of help. There are several ways that you can help. There's Jason's GoFundMe page where you can do a clean for Jason, where you donate the price of one window clean to Jason's GoFundMe page. Any money made from this video will be donated to Jason. So if you can watch the whole video and the other one that goes with it, share it, like it, comment on it, anything you can do to make YouTube show other people this video. That will really help promote the video and make more money for Jason. Thirdly, go to my Buy Me a Coffee page, and any money donated through Buy Me a Coffee will be donated to Jason throughout June and July. Thanks for watching these videos. Jason and the whole family really appreciate all the help, the well wishes and support that everybody has given to them. He had another operation on Thursday which went well. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.